Hi everyone, I'm Stu.
I'm Sarah. Welcome to the last episode of the 300 Bird Challenge.
That's right, it all comes down to this. This video is going to chronicle up until December the 31st, 2024. We need 6 more birds. Stay tuned and we'll tell you a bit more about what this video is going to be about. Okay guys, welcome back. Some good news for you, and perhaps for us too. Our circumstances over the Christmas period have changed, and it's given us an extra 5-ish days of birding that we weren't necessarily expecting. So, having given up on the idea of maybe completing this challenge, the door has opened just a little bit. 6 birds is going to be tough for us to find before the end of the year. We found all the easy stuff, and it's not the best time of year to be looking for birds, but we'll see how it goes. Our adventure in this video begins at, Sarah?
Lind Creek.
We're going to go for that Barrows Golden Eye again. We failed at that a couple of times. Let's see if we can find it today. I think this one's quite an important one, because if we don't find this one, I think it's going to be too much of an ask, but let's see how it goes. We advanced along the snow-covered sand with Lake Ontario just to our left. A pretty cold few days had just passed by. Whitby Shores refers to the area between Lynn Shores Creek and Whitby Harbour, and the Barrows Golden Eye has been spotted fairly consistently in this area, just so long as it's close enough to find it, and just so long as you can pick it out amongst all the common golden eye. But let's not get distracted by all these Canada geese, nor the plentiful long-tailed ducks. We decided to walk towards the mouth of Lind Creek, although the bird has sometimes been found west of here, underneath the bluffs. In amongst the brush, there were quite a few American goldfinch this morning. Their vibrant yellow colour faded to a softer tone as they eke out a living on near bare plants. Sudden views of the Barrows Golden Eye, at distance, a little bit blocked by brush.
Is that him?
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think that's him. He's got lots of black on him.
And in the teardrop is there.
Yep.
You got him, Stu?
That's it.
I got him.
Woo!
We tried to round the vegetation and catch up with it, but we lost it. I'll talk more about the Barrows Golden Eye in a future video when Jason and I re-find it, but in the meantime, we're in a rush to find more birds. On the way out, we saw a white-breasted nuthatch, more goldfinch, chickadees, a downy woodpecker, and this red-bellied woodpecker. Okay guys, we got the Barrows Golden Eye, pretty distant views. We got kind of an emergency shot before we tried to get closer. Unfortunately, these waterfowl tend to push out as you get closer, but we got it. Lifer too, new bird for the challenge, 5 more birds to go. There's been reports of a Harris's sparrow hanging around a little north and a little bit east of here. We haven't been able to get to it because we were in Saxon Bog. If it's still around, we're going to try and get it. Apparently it's hanging out on someone's driveway or in their front yard or something. We're going to see if we can find it. It's a bit of an unusual one. It's a kind of grassland bird species, but it's strayed a little further east. Let's see if we can get that. That would also be a lifer too, by the way. We hit the road on the way to near Sunderland, Ontario. Okay guys, the plan is we're going to drive to my friend's house, Jason. He has seen this Harris's sparrow before, so he's kind of familiar with the person's house that it's hanging out at, so we're going to kind of carpool and go with him. So stay tuned and we're going to make that journey now. While we hop into Jason's truck, let's pull up the map. A little to the southeast of Sunderland, on a nearby concession road, a Harris's sparrow has been visiting the front yard of a private residence. Don't worry, we're not trespassing. The homeowners have given the birding community permission to access their property. As we walked up the driveway, we were warmly greeted by the occupants. Obviously, I'm going to avoid filming the home and the address, but many birders in Ontario will know the location. Here's the feeders that we watched. They were pretty busy, along with this seed pile further back where the Harris's sparrow is most often seen.
Tree.
We stood and watched for a while as juncos and tree sparrows visited. A white-throated sparrow in the centre of this shot. And the number of birds, a goldfinch now amongst them, increased as they grew used to our presence. Quite a few birds on the feeders too, mostly sparrows and more goldfinch. Eventually this much larger sparrow arrived. That's the Harris's sparrow, Lifer. Unfortunately, Canada's bully boy birds, a couple of blue jays, scared everything away. But we stuck it out for a while, and the Harris's sparrow returned and offered us even better views. 4 more birds, 4 more birds. I think it's still a long shot. We have 4 more days of birding and we need a bird each day on average. It's not the time of year to go looking randomly for birds. We need alerts for rare birds that show up in the Toronto or Southern Ontario area for us to be able to make this challenge, I think. But we'll give it a shot. It's kind of tantalizingly close. Harris's sparrow, Lifer, nice looking bird with that nice black patch on the front. Sarah, what did you think of the Harris's sparrow?
Very handsome sparrow, really like the coloration. Yeah, couldn't have asked for better, really.
A little bit bigger than the sparrows around it too, so it stood out for us. We just want to say a quick thank you to the homeowners. I don't know if they want their names mentioned, but very generous of them to let birders stand just outside their house and watch their feeders, and just behind the feeders on the seed piles. So thank you to them. They got us a Lifer, they got us a new bird for the year, and ever closer. We're going to take a break here because the birding is done for us for the day, but this video continues with further days closer towards the end of the year. Stay tuned, back after this. Okay guys, welcome back. We have 4 more days of birding and we need 4 more birds. So it's still a bit touch and go. We still need every day to go pretty well. This morning we are at Colonel Sam Smith Park, one of our favourite haunts. There's a couple of birds that we might potentially see here. Tell you more in a minute, but let's get started and start heading into the park. A brain-numbingly cold morning with condensation forming above the water at Sam Smith Park. This morning we are in pursuit of an unusual overwintering orange-crowned warbler, and maybe American pipits. We began with the orange-crowned warbler, recently reported along this section of trail to the west of the marina. Very little bird activity this morning. Here's a common raven in the golden light. A little later, we watched as it pursued a bald eagle. Very used to the conditions in Arctic waters, these long-tailed ducks took things in their stride. Okay, no joy at the Western Peninsula, which is where we thought that bird might be hanging out. It's fairly quiet so far. Very cold morning, if you can't tell from our faces and me struggling to speak, but we'll continue trying to find it for now. With nothing but tree sparrows to keep us company, we moved on towards Wimbrel Point. The fences currently found at Sam Smith Park are likely to be a long-term fixture here as work to prevent erosion takes place over the coming years. Not that erosion is of much immediate concern to this starling preoccupied with a winter sumac treat. Eerie scenes over Lake Ontario as a cloud front loomed and mist rolled westwards across the shore. The peninsula of Wimbrel Point has served us well for pipits a couple of times, so we staked it out for a while. Well, no joy on the orange-crowned warbler so far, so we've come to Wimbrel Point here. We've seen American pipits here before, so we're hoping that one might just pip up or pop up for us and we can add that to our list. So far, no joy, but we might just walk down the lakeshore and see if we can find one. It was misty enough that shooting red-breasted mergansers was even more of a thankless task. but we did get a splash of colour from this northern cardinal, at least. We turned back, somewhat disappointed to not find any new species after a strong start to this video. Okay guys, it's a bust. Just a few ducks with their heads tucked in the extreme cold and us with red faces. It's minus 22 with the wind chill. I think we're going to have to move on. Sarah, what kind of area are we heading to next?
LaSalle Harbor or Hamilton Harbor to see a Pacific loon, potentially.
Hopefully. Stay tuned, back in a sec. After a 40-minute drive further west, we ended up at LaSalle Park in Burlington. Okay guys, we've come to LaSalle Harbour. We're going to take a look out over the lake from a couple of different vantage points, see if there's any sight of any Pacific loon. If not, we're going to move on maybe to somewhere else close by Hamilton Harbour, see if there's anything out from there. Oh look, it's my favourite mergansers. They can't believe the chill either. We had a look across the lake for any loons, and we checked the harbour for any suspicious gull activity. You can always guarantee some action in the crowded beach area of LaSalle. We decided to find a different location to view across the lake. Okay guys, we left LaSalle Harbour and we've come to Hamilton Yacht Club Harbour on kind of the opposite side of the water to get a different vantage point. We've kind of half given up and we've been kind of joking around and whatever. We came to the water without much expectation, got the camera up, and straight away there's two loons out there. Sarah has seen an eBird report. Sarah, did you want to talk about the picture that was associated with that?
Yeah, so there was an eBird report from 2 days ago that showed the Pacific loon associating with a common loon and pointing out the size and coloration differences.
Yeah,
looks pretty similar.
We've got pretty much the same view just a second ago, but we're not confident enough to call what we saw a Pacific loon until we get back off camera and check it on a larger screen. So we may have it. We'll come back to this in a minute. In the meantime, we'll kind of carry on birding, not really knowing where we're standing right now. We watched these loons for a long time, but we were only equipped with binoculars and my camera, so our views were pretty limited. We were hoping that a representative from Zeiss Optics might turn up and lend us a $7,000 spotting scope so that we could figure this out, but unfortunately that dream did not come true. Okay guys, we are going to leave Hamilton Harbour now. We have spent quite some time looking out at those two loons. We all have kind of theories that we don't necessarily want to commit to on camera. We all are in agreement that the larger of the two is almost certainly a common loon, but the other one's a little bit less certain. I'm leaning to thinking that maybe we got a bit excited and it might just be a common loon, but we don't know. We can't call it at the moment. We're gonna hop back in the truck and maybe consider our options on what to do next for the rest of the day. In the meantime, you guys and I will have to wait to see what that bird was. I'm gonna have to look into it on a larger screen, maybe get some expert opinion. We'll see how it goes. We might have a new bird, we might not. Driving back towards home, the day pressing on, we decided to call it off while I went home and sought the opinions of some other birders over those loons. Okay guys, we've been home for a couple of hours now, and having delved into the footage from today, taking a closer look at those two loons, it does unfortunately appear as though we have two common loons. No Pacific loon for us today, no new bird for us today. We have, before the end of the year, 3 more days where we can go birding. Boxing Day and the following weekend after that. 4 new birds required, only 3 days left. It's looking a little bit tight. On that bombshell, time to go for a break. This video continues on Boxing Day. Merry Christmas, and bye for now. Okay everyone, welcome back. It is Boxing Day. Did you have a lovely Christmas? Let's hope so, but this is probably going out in January at this point. Continuing the last video in the 300 birds challenge, where have we come to this morning, Sarah?
We are at Sunnyside Beach.
And what annoying bird are we looking for?
The American pipit.
If you'd have asked me at the beginning of the year, what bird do you really not want to be looking for at the end of the year, it would be an American pipit. Small brown bird, lands on the rocks, disappears again, not to be seen after it's foraged for a while. So we're just hoping that one flies in and lands on the rocks, basically. It all kind of, to an extent, comes down to this. If we find the American pipit, we might make some slightly more extravagant plans for the coming weekend, which will be our last chance to bird. Maybe travel a bit further afield to pick up some birds that are around in Ontario at the moment. But to do that, ideally we need to try and see this pipit. So we're basically going to walk up and down the beach at Sunnyside Park and hope that 1 or 2 or 10 come in and land for us.
We walked up and down the beach, scanning the rocks and the sand. This is a bird we have easily chased at least 6 or 7 times this year. It's a bird that we have seen several times, but I've never managed to get it on camera. It's fair to say that our morale was not at its highest this morning. A few cool species around to give us a bit of a lift. I was able to get quite close to this itchy northern shoveler before it noticed me, and a few of them made off to safety. A great black-backed gull preening over on the break wall. Why the long face, Bufflehead? Are you disappointed by the pipits too? As I walked along the top of this stone wall, I suddenly saw 3 birds flush.
Where did it go?
One went into a tree, the other 2, which I think were American pipits, flew west towards the beach.
I swear to God.
Is this going to be another near miss? We caught up with the bird that flew into the tree, but it wouldn't show for us very nicely. And then a downy woodpecker distracted us for a moment. But eventually, I caught the bird in the bough of the tree.
It's the yellow rump.
A very late to migrate, or perhaps overwintering, yellow-rumped warbler.
We have walked the length of the beach once, and we did flush some birds, but we couldn't get a very good look at them. 3 birds flushed and went further down the beach. The other one went into a tree. That was an interesting yellow-rumped warbler, perhaps trying to overwinter here. Don't know what the other 2 were. Kind of heard the call. Was it a pipit? Not 100%. We've tried to track it down, haven't been able to find it. We continue to march up and down the beach in the meantime.
It was cold. It was quiet apart from the waterfowl. I'm not sure it's going to be our day. Without the pipit, there just aren't enough birds around for us to be able to complete the challenge. What a roller coaster the last couple of weeks have been.
Okay guys, we had kind of almost given up, but Sarah, what's just happened?
We were heading to the car, and then on the beach, what should land on the rocks but 2 American pipits.
What an annoying bird the American pipit has been. The most annoying bird of this year, I think. So, just a bit of behind the scenes. To be honest, we'd come really close mentally to kind of cutting off this challenge and not pursuing it. Partly, to be honest, for financial reasons. It's a lot of kind of outlay, but we've kind of now reluctantly seen the American pipit. We have to kind of go big, don't we? We have 3 more birds to go. There's only 3 or 4 birds, as far as I'm aware at the moment, that are kind of showing up that we still need in Ontario. We have the black-backed woodpecker in Algonquin Park, last seen 6 days ago. We have pine grosbeak as a massive long shot also showing up there. Slightly more reliable is the Townsend solitaire that is kind of showing up in the region of Tiny, Ontario, so that's quite a jaunt away as well. And then there's the long shot that we kind of had the near miss on of the Pacific loon that's kind of hanging around in Hamilton, so it's still going to take a miracle, but I guess we have to kind of go for it. So that does us for today, I suppose. I think we're going to go and do a bit of thinking, a bit of planning, that kind of thing, but stay tuned to the video. We'll be back after tomorrow. If tomorrow is Friday, we'll be back on Saturday for Algonquin Park, I guess.
I began driving us home through Toronto while Sarah got on her phone and started booking hotels. 3 birds, 2 days to find them. Saturday would be Algonquin Park. Sunday we'd stay near Tiny, Ontario. Stay tuned, back after the break. Welcome back, the penultimate day, Algonquin Park. Our day begins in the not very nice weather on the way up to some parking along Opeongo Road.
Okay guys, bird number 1. Sarah, what are we looking for?
The black-backed woodpecker.
Our nemesis woodpecker. We've looked for it a few times. It all kind of comes down to this. We have to find it. We've got today at Algonquin Park. We're joined by our friends Jason and Spring that you can see in the background. Nice symmetry to that because the first time we met those guys was here at Algonquin Park as a result of the channel. One of the rules is we have to get the bird on camera. Well, I never said it had to be my camera, so we've got more lenses today than NASA and the British paparazzi combined, so hopefully we'll find it. Stay tuned. We're on Opeongo Road. That was where it was last sighted by somebody else a few days ago, and again, yesterday, was it, Sarah? Day before? Yeah, yesterday. The other thing that was noticed was pine grosbeak feeding on the side of the road. That would be a nice bonus because that was a kind of unexpected bird, but we'd have to be pretty lucky, I think, but we need a bit of luck. Let's see if we get some.
The black-backed woodpecker and pine grosbeaks had both been seen near the bridge. We waited it out near this frozen clearing. As we did so, we were entertained by hungry chickadees. We were also joined by some Canada jays. All of the Canada jays in Algonquin Park are banded. They've been closely studied for several decades. We continued to look and listen for woodpeckers.
Well, by the time we get back to the cars, it's going to be about 2 hours that we spent walking up and down a length of Opeongo Road. We have not seen hide nor hair of the black-backed woodpecker. I think we're going to visit a couple of other spots where we have seen it in the past, or where Jason and Spring have seen it in the past. Maybe we'll find it there. There's been reports at Spruce Bog. We've had luck in the past at the logging museum. So stay tuned. We're going to go back to the vehicles, regroup, and try somewhere else within Algonquin Park.
Next stop, we went to the visitors centre. Even there was quiet. No winter finches on the roads, not very much on the feeders. A rather puffed up ruffed grouse halfway up a tree. Remember when this bird was a target? The good old days. In the past, all 4 of us had seen the black-backed woodpecker near the beginning of the logging museum trail, so we hung out in the parking lot and just into the trail. Chickadees and nuthatches and brief excitement at a larger than typical woodpecker, but it's the wrong kind. And that was about all we had to show for our logging museum trail stop.
If Algonquin Park doesn't work out for us, that means we are not going to make 300. It's been a real roller coaster over the last few weeks of kind of realizing we're not going to make it when suddenly a bird turns up. Doesn't seem to be happening this time, but having said that, we are going to go to the Spruce Bog Boardwalk Trail next. Bit of a subplot. Jason and Spring would like to see a spruce grouse. They haven't seen one this year, and it was reported recently, but so has the black-backed woodpecker, so both of those birds would be brilliant. Let's see if it works out for us. Stay tuned, back in a sec.
A brief hop down Highway 60 to the Spruce Bog Boardwalk. We entered the trail and we searched the trees for either spruce grouse or for our nemesis woodpecker. Another bust though. Things aren't looking good again after the boost we got from finding the pipit the other day. Running out of options, we decided to return to our first stop, Opeongo Road, the most recent sighting of the woodpecker. We were once again greeted by Canada jays. Based on the leg bands on these birds, we believe that there were 5 in total, 2 different family groups.
We have been defeated by the evil black-backed woodpecker. We do unfortunately have to leave Algonquin Park now. It will take a bit of a miracle at this point to make 300, but let's try to end on a bit of a high. We're going to go and look for that Townsend solitaire tomorrow. In the meantime, we have to check into our hotel, get to Midland. Stay tuned, we'll be back after this break.
Good morning and welcome to the last day of the 300 bird challenge. The conditions aren't great with a little bit of icy rain, but let's go for it. We had driven from Algonquin Park to Midland, Ontario the previous evening, and now we were making the small jaunt to tiny Ontario.
Okay, good morning everyone and welcome back. With caffeine and breakfast in our bodies, we're feeling a bit more positive this morning. Townsend solitaire has been spotted in Tiny Township. That's where we find ourselves, quite close to where we stayed in Midland last night. Although we didn't get the black-backed, we're feeling optimistic on this one. It's been sighted fairly reliably. What road are we on this morning, Sarah?
We are on Tiny Beaches Road.
Let's see if we can find it. It's still a little bit dark, but we'll give it a try.
It really didn't take very long. The Townsend solitaire enjoys eating juniper berries, and it likes to find a high perch to observe from, so it can be quite showy. Faded footage because it's dark and raining, but at least we've got a new bird.
Okay guys, we found that one. That's a pretty good feeling after a bit of a difficult day yesterday. Townsend solitaire, a bird we have chased 3 times. Third time lucky, we found it. Kinda very drab this morning. It's quite dark, so the settings on my camera are straining to get any kind of colour out of that one from what is basically a kind of grey thrush looking bird. But we've got it. There's another 2 birds hanging around. How many more do we need, Sarah?
2 more.
We're going to head to Barry, where there have been reports of a glaucous gull, or several glaucous gulls, I think. We're not very good at gulls. Let's see how that goes. Stay tuned. We're going to make the drive there. How far is that? Maybe an hour or so?
About that,
Yeah. So we'll be back in a bit.
With poor weather looming and time running out, we're southbound towards Barry, which is already helpfully on the way home. Less than an hour later, we're there, but visibility is terrible. We checked the beach, then we headed for the marina.
Okay, we've come to Barry, we walked Confederation Beach, we've come to the marina. Beach was pretty quiet, but there were some gulls out on the marina just a moment ago, but it's very foggy, difficult views, and some geese were flushed, and in turn that flushed the gulls. We were hoping that they might come back in again. We did get some photos of some, but as I've said many times, we're not gull experts. We need to look at those photos before we can kind of decide what we've seen, so we're going to continue to look and maybe get some more evidence before we continue.
Through the fog, it was next to impossible. I don't think there's a glaucous gull here at all. Either way, the gulls didn't return after they were flushed.
Okay guys, we've come a bit further south of Barry, stopped at a service station, get some coffee, pick ourselves up a little bit, been a bit of a roller coaster. You lose all hope, and then there's suddenly a glimmer of a bird you didn't expect. Something goes well, you get a Townsend solitaire straight away, and then you try and get a glaucous gull, and suddenly it's fog everywhere, and you can't even see a Canada goose, let alone anything else. The plan, I think, is to head to Hamilton next. We need 2 more birds, there's 2 there. Pacific loon, which we've pursued once before without success, maybe we can get it this time. And also glaucous gull has been spotted there too. We'll try for that one maybe. Orange-crowned warbler at Colonel Sam Smith Park, but I think in these conditions there's not much chance of that. It's absolutely peeing it down. Jason and Spring have tapped out. The weather is so bad. They're a little bit further down the highway than us. We'll have to see how it goes. We might still try for it, go all in, but we're running out of time.
As we continued south down Highway 400, conditions got worse and worse and worse.
Well, the weather's not looking very pretty. We've just passed through Vaughan. You can barely see Canada's Wonderland at the side of the highway. Visibility is probably about 400 metres. Decision point, once we reach Highway 401, do we head east back towards our place, or do we go west to Colonel Sam Smith or LaSalle or somewhere like that? Right now, we're not feeling too hopeful with the poor visibility. Not looking so good, but we've got a few more minutes before we get to that point.
As you move south on Highway 400 past Vaughan and Highway 407, you hit the border of Toronto. Passing through the North York region of the city, you soon reach Highway 401, and that is decision point for us. If we go east, we go home. The challenge is over. But if we go west, the challenge continues. With 2 birds shy of our target, and with the conditions as bad as they are, we had no choice but to call it off.
Well guys, we didn't meet our 300 bird challenge, not for want of trying in those last few days. A little bit disappointing, a little bit frustrating at times, but let's keep things positive. You see, as satisfying as it would have been to fill that little circle in the corner of the screen, the 300 bird challenge ended up being about more than just hitting a target.
It was about the stories we told.
It was about the journey that we took.
And how we grew as people and as birders.
It was about the places that this challenge took us.
From the Gulf of Mexico.
To the shores of the Great Lakes.
From prairie grasses to boreal forests.
It was about the people that we met along the way. It was about the birds we saw, from the tiniest warbler
to the greatest of owls.
Each one was a moment, a memory, a connection.
It was about remembering to connect to the world around us.
And appreciating its beauty in Ontario and beyond. In every feather, in every bird call, in every daft bird behaviour that we saw.
As much as anything, it was about community. It was about all of you who joined us and cheered us on and shared your thoughts, your sightings, and your stories.
And it was about correcting the inevitable one mistake per video that I always made in the editing.
Together we celebrated birds and the joy that they bring to our lives. And we didn't hit our goal, but that's okay. Because in the end, birding isn't just about numbers.
It's about the moments that take flight with us, long after the binoculars are put away.
Thank all of you for being part of our adventure. Stay tuned.
Here's to future journeys, future stories. Sarah and I will be back soon.